Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to MediaScope's Friday live chat. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by Jodie Sangster, CEO of our industry organisation, ADMA. Welcome, Jodie.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone, also who's joining us live. The replay of this, of course, will be up on the MediaScope site at some stage this afternoon. But this is a great opportunity to speak to Jodie today. I want to talk about a range of issues, but we also want to talk about the industry in general, but we also, of course, want to talk about your new training initiatives under ADMA IQ. As I was saying to Jodie, I am at my standing desk again. I've been standing at it all week and highly recommend it to everyone in the industry. And thank you to MediaScope partner Pandora for my T-shirt this afternoon. Always happy to get a plug-in for the partners. So thank you. I really appreciate your support. Firstly, Jodie, let's get started just with a general industry type question. And as someone who is out in the industry, perhaps even more than me, and of course, ADMA's, I suppose your membership contains marketer, agency, and publisher. So it'd be great, first of all, if I can just get your view on the keep me up at night issues for each of those sectors, and indeed if there's some level of commonality between each of them.
Yeah. Look, I think in terms of general issues or general challenges that are keeping the industry up at night, they haven't changed an awful lot from 2015 to 2016. I think data remains a problem. Every sector, doesn't matter where you are, has to understand the role that data plays. I would say that being data-driven marketing, but I think we're seeing more and more that businesses, it's not even marketers, it's businesses are having to deal with data. They know that it's not a competitive advantage anymore, it's an absolute necessity, and really need to grasp and get their head around how their businesses use data, and that might be starting from scratch and kind of building the whole data infrastructure, or they might be further along the path. It doesn't matter. We've still got a really big challenge around data and the understanding around data and the role that it plays. So that's, I think, it stays. The other one I think that actually kind of dovetails with that is technology. So marketing technology is a big challenge. Again, it doesn't matter what part of the industry you're in. We're all dealing with technology. We all have to learn how to use the technology, and that kind of gap between what the technology can do and where we're at the moment, which the skills that we've got, there's a gap in between, and it's causing a problem. I think the other area that continues to be a challenge is this idea of moving away from push marketing to pull marketing. So this whole idea of content and engagement and how we now go about trying to really make sure that our customers kind of have that two-way interaction with us. I don't think we're quite there yet. We all know we've got to do it, but how do we go about content marketing and still maintain our revenue and income levels? That's another kind of a key challenge as well. So look, I think that's across the board. For the supplier side of the industry, what I think is a real challenge there is getting cut through. There is so many players out there that have got, whether it be technology or services, that are so relevant to a marketer, but how do you differentiate yourself from the other thousands that are out there and get across to a marketer that we can help you with this part here, and we're the best at doing that. And when I look at your MediaScope's, that just for me sums it up from a supply side of the market. How on earth do we get this message across, and how do we make it clear what our role is? So I think that's a big challenge. From the agency side, slightly different. I think agencies are still challenged with what is their new role. So as marketers are bringing a lot of the things in-house and doing it themselves, what is the role of an agency? And they don't want to be kind of pulled down into just the delivery side of things, and really need to be up in that kind of strategic and ideas place. And there's just needs to be a little bit of a readjustment in the agency world now to make sure that they are really playing to their strengths and are not being seen as a commodity.
That's exactly right. And I think the thing that comes across to me from all of those sectors is, again, that pace of change. And I just think that is now the new normal for all of us in the industry. We need to be on the curve, ahead of the curve. We can never stand still again. When I started in the industry a long time ago, 30 years ago, you know, it was slow. You know, things happened, but it was slow. Now it's almost a daily thing. Now the challenges that, I mean, that's what makes the industry exciting, but the challenges that come along with that are the things that you recognise. You know, the changing nature of marketing, so more from the inbound to the outbound, or sorry, the outbound to the inbound. And I can see that Alex Allwood is watching us live. She's the principal of an agency called Holler, which is a customer experience agency. I'm hearing a lot about customer experience at the moment. Oh, she's giving me some thumbs up. I'm hearing lots about customer experience at the moment. That does seem to be, you know, marketers are really wondering about the better experiences they can give to their customers as they're coming as they're reaching their site or interacting with them. Agencies, yes, constantly having to change tact, absolutely. Media also, and we'll talk about that a little toward the end, because there's some things I want to say about some things that have happened this week. So thank you, Jodie. That's good. The keep up at night issues for the industry. Perhaps if we can now have a quick chat about ADMA.
Yep.
How long have you been there, by the way, now?
You know, everyone always says to me, oh, it's about 3 years you've been there, isn't it? And it's actually 5. So in April, it's 5 years, yeah. So it's gone like that, but yeah, 5 years.
And ADMA, would I be right in saying that ADMA are one of the original industry organisations, albeit very evolved now?
Yeah, so ADMA was established in 1966, so we've been around a long time. It's actually, it's our birthday this year, so that's an exciting time. So it's our 50th birthday. And yeah, so we started off as a lobbying organisation, very much kind of around the issues with data still, and how marketers that were in the direct mail industry at that time could use data for marketing purposes. And it's been a big kind of transformation over the last 50 years to where we are today. And you probably know that around 3.5, 4 years ago, we changed both our name and our focus, really. So previously it was direct marketing, and we very much kind of embrace direct marketing still, and all of those kind of skill sets that go behind it, which are seeing this huge comeback. But now it's very much into that kind of data-driven space, data-driven marketing. So the way that we kind of structure ourselves and the subject matters that we cover, sitting right at the heart of what we do and what we represent is customer experience. It's all about the customer, and sitting around the edge of that we have data, technology, content, creative and digital. So there are 5 kind of key core areas that sit around the customer experience, and that's really the footprint of ADMA now.
The footprint of ADMA, and indeed the new training, or the new ADMA IQ training program, is based around those 5 pillars, and we will talk about that a little more in a moment.
And that's right, yeah. So in fact, it's the way that we try and approach the industry now, because as we said just a moment ago, it is really, really complex out there. You could choose 100 subject matters to cover as an industry association, and you still wouldn't have the full range of the industry included in that. So what we try to do is distill it down to something manageable, that we can kind of represent out there to the market, and it makes sense, and people can look at that and go, I'm into data, so I fit within ADMA, or I'm in creative, I fit within ADMA, I've got a home there. So yes, we kind of structure a lot of what we do around those kind of 6 core areas.
6 core areas. I suppose the structure gives you space to add another core area if that need arises. I mean, I think that's one of the exciting things about being in our industry now, is there's always something new to get your head around.
Do you know that I think the other thing that's changed, and it's interesting from a marketing or a marketer's perspective, is that really what we're talking about now is not just marketing, it's business. And the role that a marketer plays isn't just sitting in marketing doing a marketing role, it's actually a cross-business role. And particularly when you're getting into things like customer experience, you can't say that customer experience sits within marketing, because without the support of IT, without the support of the analytics team, without the support of the sales team, all of that plays into customer experience too. So I think we're finding that even that marketing role is extending outside of a marketing department. It's going into a bigger business role, and it's becoming that kind of representation of the customer. And that's, I guess, what we're reflecting as an association as well.
Great. And certainly there's often a lot of talk about the CMO getting a seat at the boardroom table where they should rightly be. And indeed, you know, perhaps a thought might be that marketing now is a more numbers and data-driven sector. You can get that seat at the table, at the boardroom table, because of course boardrooms are very numbers focused.
Yeah. Yes and no. I think it's still challenging, and I do a lot of work with boards and boards of directors, and it's still quite traditional in the way that many boards, not all, thankfully, approach board meetings, and often it is very focused just on, you know, revenue numbers, etc., risk, you know, some around kind of staffing, and marketing often doesn't come up at the boardroom table, but it absolutely should do. And to your point, I think what's slightly starting to happen is that they're putting someone in there to represent the customer rather than representing marketing, and that's a slightly different shift, and it makes it a much easier transition to sit at the board table if you're representing your customer base rather than the marketing, which is seen as a function. So look, I hope more boards embrace that, because it really does need to happen.
I think that is such an interesting point, the customer. I mean, at the end of you're right, that's really what marketing should be representing at its core. And if it's looked at in that way from the boardroom table, then of course they should be there, whereas there has been some resistance before. Let's move on to perhaps something that's a little controversial, but we want to get through it because I think it's an important question to ask. Yep. She knows what's coming. This morning on MediaScope's newsletter, I of course highlighted the industry organisation's MediaScope, and that has been going for some time. That one has kept me fairly busy of late, yeah. Jodie. I'm sure. There has been a little bit of movement there, but really wanted to get your sense of that landscape. You know, as we've discussed before, 2 weeks ago. ADMA and AMIA came together after AMIA got into difficulties last year. Today in the press there's some news about the Australian Marketing Institute sort of rearranging their board. We've also seen industry organisations such as Publishers Australia really struggle to find their place and eventually go into decline. In the last few weeks, there's been talk about some of the TV industry organisations joining forces. It does seem to me, as someone who obviously keeps a close eye on this landscape, is that there is crossover, perhaps cannibalisation. What are your views on the industry organisations that are out there?
Look, I think particularly in our space, marketing, media, etc., is a very crowded industry association space. We've got a lot of industry associations. The reason for that, you know, is historical, in that previously we had quite defined specializations in marketing and media. So, you know, for us at the time, we were the Direct Marketing Association. So, you know, we had a very carved out space, and, you know, we had the IAB who was looking around online measurement, and you had AANA who was looking after the big advertisers, and everyone kind of had their part of the market, which made sense at the time. But as you know, everything's starting to come together, and you know, there's not so much differentiation anymore. There becomes more crossover with the associations, and so you're finding that, you know, there's probably 30–40% crossover in what they're doing. So yeah, we've moved away from that niche space, and majority of the associations are starting to cross over. I think the other thing that we do need to take into account in the market is that we also see competition from different places. So it was previously that associations would always do things like the awards programs. They'd always do the big conferences and events where they'd do education. But now we're seeing publishers do that. So, you know, we see B&T or Umbrella or Ad News who are also putting on those programs. So the landscape's changed in that way too, in terms of we're now actually competing in a strange way with publishers and others. Where does this need to go? What I don't think you can end up with is one giant big marketing association, because I think if you become too broad, you end up standing for nothing. So I do think there is still a place for for some degree of niche or specialisation in associations, and that will probably continue. But what I think is important for us, and what I am always laser focused on, and where I think some associations have fallen down, some of the ones that perhaps aren't around anymore, is as an association you have to be valuable. You have to look at your membership base and go, what's that membership base need from me, and what do we need to put in place to make sure we're delivering on that. It is not good enough now to have a couple of events going on and and a newsletter that goes out every couple of weeks. That is not enough. You've really got to look at the industry challenges, the points that are keeping people up at night, and go, how do we help people along that path? And I think when I came to ADMA 5 years ago, the first thing we did was who is our audience? We want to have everyone from entry-level marketer up to CMO. We know the specializations, and let's make sure we're delivering something for every part of our audience. And we continue to do that. That's what needs to happen. And will there be further consolidation? I think there'll be a little bit. I think there'll be a little bit of consolidation that will go on. But I don't think it will end up, as I said, as one giant big marketing association.
Alex Allwood asking us live. Thank you, Alex. What's the Com Council's role then? So Com Council, we're getting controversial. The Com Council representing creative agencies in our market.
Yeah, so I think the Comms Council absolutely is seen as the home for many agencies, and they do deal with a lot of the agency issues. They're playing quite a strong role there. And it's always a challenge. I think what the Comms Council is doing now, which I'm really pleased to see, is that they are carving out again is what is their area and what is their niche. Previously, when the Comms Council became the Comms Council, and it was the merger of 2, 3, 4 organisations and bringing all of that together, that is not an easy thing to do. And you can become again too broad and not be clear enough about what your mandate is. And I think that's been possibly the struggle previously, but really seeing them now with the new CEO over there, that they're refocusing on what they are and what they stand for and who they stand for. And I think we'll see some good traction there in the market.
Which is great, and I agree. I think it's really working out what your beachhead is, and just completely playing to that. And it is a very, very crowded market. There is crossover, and some organisations will want to be members across a couple of different industry organisations because that suits them. It is certainly a busy schedule. Your plans, just quickly, for AMIA, that happened about 2 weeks ago after they had a bit of a difficult year last year. And of course, there again, one of our original industry associations. If anything, I think IAB was born from AMIA. So again, another sort of interesting dynamic.
Yeah, so look, we'll be using a very similar formula for AMIA that we have for ADMA, being very clear about the subject matters that we cover, making sure that we are looking at all levels of audience, entry level up to very kind of senior, and also looking at the kind of deliverables. So for us as ADMA, we're very clear about education. Education is a massive part of what we do. Being clear about the events, when we bring events to Australia, we want to bring international speakers. It's not about looking at what's happening just in Australia. Let's kind of look as far and wide as humanly possible and bring those learnings here. So we'll be using a very kind of similar structure and formula for AMIA. And I was, I'm really so delighted to be able to bring kind of that digital marketing community on board. A lot of people said to me when we were kind of taking over AMIA, but digital is everywhere. Is there really a need for an association that just focuses on digital? And my answer to that is absolutely yes, there is, because you can't tell me that everybody in our marketing industry is digitally savvy and that they know what they're doing in digital and have got a digital strategy. Absolutely they don't. So there is still a need to focus on this, and if we can get that part right, I think, and we have some great digital talent and thought leadership happening, that helps everybody. So that's what we'll be doing.
Excellent. Can I ask you a question without notice? The size of a marketer, could you be a marketing consultant? Could you be a small business? What size of marketing business and marketing department is relevant to ADMA and now AMIA?
Yeah, sure. So for both actually. So AMIA tends to be smaller, the smaller digital agencies, whereas ADMA has kind of predominantly been the larger corporations, but actually for both there's a membership structure which says it doesn't matter if you're a sole trader, there's a level that you can come in at, and if you are a giant Wesfarmers, there's a level that you can come in at. So it's actually for everybody. And I think that with anything, any membership, and I'm not even talking about marketing associations, I'm talking any membership you have in your life, you get the value out of it that you put in. So if you're a sole trader and you're going to join up, then you've got to work out how you're going to use that membership to actually benefit you. And if it's the same, if you're Woolworths and you join, you go, right, how am I going to make sure every single one of my marketers uses this to the maximum benefit? So yeah, I think there's a space for everybody, but I do think, you know, we've got to kind of work really well with organisations or individuals to make sure they're maximising the benefit.
Absolutely, and often in that structure, I found when I've worked under those, you know, those we've got very small clients right up to larger clients. It's the smaller ones that make a lot of the noise. You know, they're the ones that are passionate. Sometimes they've spent their own money to be a member, so they absolutely want to get value from it. And you know, being a bit of a squeaky solo wheel myself, I can completely. Let's move on. We've covered in these chats, which have now been going for a little while, we've covered skill shortages. So really want to get into that meaty topic of skill gaps, which of course is, you know, ADMA IQ has really been brought into the market in the last couple of weeks to address that increasing problem and the problem that's not going anywhere. We've spoken about programmatic before in one of these live chats, and indeed I host a roundtable with some of the ad tech guys. We're talking about how, you know, because they say that they're part of their role is recruiters. They seem to spend a lot of their time just trying to get their team in place. Yep. So really wanted to get a sense, I suppose, Jodie, again, from the skill gaps within other sectors of our broader industry. So creative agency, marketers and so on. I'm quite across skill gaps in the media sector, but if you can again just give us some insights into those other sectors. Is it as bad as what we experience in the media sector?
Yeah, so we did some research recently on what is actually happening out there. So probably about 6 months ago, we went out to the market and said, well, what is happening, and is this skills gap a reality, or is it just a lot of talk? And it came back very clearly, which we kind of expected, that it's a reality out there. And that actually is on a global, it's not just Australia, that's on a global basis, that we have got a skills gap between being a marketer and a marketer of the future. So you know, we have great marketers out there, but as the pace of change, you know, increases, and as the role of a marketer is going from doing marketing campaigns to being an analyst, to understanding marketing technology, to understanding the role of content, and on goes the learning, you know, it really is becoming quite a challenge to have the right skills in place. So I think kind of core areas where we're seeing a skills shortage, we haven't got enough people coming through, and we haven't got enough people with the right skills. Data, absolutely. And I mean data, the full length of the spectrum. So marketers who understand data and the role that data plays, I think is challenging. But also having the right analysts working in organisations who understand the business problem that they're trying to solve. Even there, we've got a challenge. So data across the board issue. Technology is an issue, and you know, I can actually kind of talk my own team. You know, we implemented marketing technology, and didn't realise the steep learning curve that you actually have to have as a marketer. You can have marketing automation, but unless you know how to use that tool is not going to solve your problems. So I think we're seeing a big skill shortage in marketing technology that we need to get on top of sharpish. Content is more of a mind shift. So shifting from I'm out there to sell to I'm out there to be engaging is not, you know, traditionally how we as marketers think. So I think there's a gap there, but I think it's a gap that we can relatively easily fill if we really kind of focus on it. Analytics is an issue, and I think then just the well-roundedness of marketers, having that kind of 360 view is a challenge in itself. So having marketers who have both the traditional skills plus a viewpoint of where we're going into the future, I think we need to do a little bit more there.
And it's that whole, I mean, the industry is absolutely transitioning from a qual-based industry to a quant-based industry. I like to think that we still need both, you know, the yin and the yang, the right and the left, absolutely. But there's no doubt that it absolutely needs to be underpinned by data. The courses that you've introduced, and I want to get a little bit of background on ADMA IQ, but also you touched on, you know, existing marketers who have perhaps been in the industry for a long time. Are they receptive to this kind of new learning? You know, is it something that they want to get their head around? Are they in denial about it still? I certainly see a few in the media sector that, you know, they're still very much in the traditional media space and don't really, you know, they think it's all too hard, it's out of their comfort zone. Is there an element of that also?
Yeah, I think there is an element of that. I think with anybody, in any job, isn't it? It's a bit confronting when you're kind of looking at something and going, I am a real professional in my field, and, you know, I've been doing marketing for 20 plus years, and now all of a sudden, you know, my skill set is reducing in relevance. I mean, that is confronting for anybody. Is there a reluctance? I don't think there is. It depends on the person. Some people, you know, it's like anything. Some people are just going to go, I'm going to tackle this head on, and I'm going to go and learn everything I can and make sure that I can stay ahead of the curve. And others would kind of, you know, put a bag on their head and then go, it's not happening. It's just a personality thing. But I don't think it's even optional now. I mean, we really want to kind of move into the future, this is not a 10 years time. We need to know this. This is next year. You need to know this, and we cannot sit there in denial and think that this is not going to happen. But I also do think that there's a role for businesses to play here. So it's not just about an individual going, I haven't quite got the right skill set, I'm going to go educate myself. It's for businesses to go, who have I got here? Where are the gaps in my marketing team? If I know my marketing team of the future needs to look like this, then I sure as hell better be educating and upskilling my team now to make sure I can deliver on that. So, you know, perhaps some of the reluctance can be overcome by businesses embracing that kind of marketing future.
And I think that touches on a really interesting point. Is it upskilling existing staff? And of course, you know, they should all be open to it. Or is it bringing in new people, perhaps younger people or people from other industries? As you know, Jo, there's a lot of 457 visas coming into this market.
There is.
I'm not a huge fan. Particularly unemployment rate yesterday came out with a rise of 6%, huge unemployment levels in youth unemployment. Why we're not training people up in those markets but continually bringing in people in on 457 visas, there's a disconnect there. So are we replacing or are we upskilling?
I think in many businesses they're looking for the silver bullet, the person who can come in and fill the gap straight away and solve the problem that you have at that time and that place. Because, as we all know, you know, waiting 3 months or 4 months or 5 months until someone's been upskilled is a difficult thing to do when we're all competing and trying to drive revenue and all of that sort of thing. So a lot of it is around just trying to find that silver bullet and bring somebody in. But it's you know, it's a short term. This is a short-term thing, and we cannot keep, you know, there's going everywhere else in the world's got a skill shortage too. So bringing people over to Australia is a short-term strategy, and I think we need to kind of get past that and really look at upskilling the teams that we've got. And there is going to be a degree of bringing new people in and upskilling what you've got. So taking your great talent that you've got and making sure that you're nurturing them and bringing them up to where they need to be. And some of it is always going to be, well, we need new team members just to kind of keep things fresh and moving on. But I'm really seeing some companies are doing a great job at skilling their team. So Telstra is just stand out in terms of they have looked at it and gone, right, what does Telstra need in a marketing team for the future? We've mapped it all, and now we're going to train all our staff so that we can get there. And what a great investment, because as much as I'm sure that cost them a reasonable amount of money, they now know that their marketers are going to, you know, they're ready for the next onslaught and ready for the next 3 years, and it's not going to hold them back as a business. And, you know, I really think that should be held out as an example of what we should be doing.
Yeah, I agree. You know, keeping existing staff, nurturing that staff, getting longevity, constant training, constant learning, you know, a level of workplace flexibility in there for those that need them, as Alex has just asked us a question about. But if you're bringing people in from overseas markets, you're always going to be plugging holes. That's going to be, if your strategy is just to continually plug holes, you're always going to be running. So yeah, and I agree. I mean, bringing some people in is great for experience and, you know, that extra depth of knowledge. But as an employment strategy, not so good.
I think that's right. And I think the other thing is to look at your team. It doesn't mean that you have to have, you know, somebody in the analytics team who needs to be upskilled in analytics. It might actually be someone in your marketing team who is really showing a flair for numbers, who actually might want to make a transition into a different role, or indeed an analyst who might want to come across to marketing, or creative who might want to be a, you know, account manager. I don't know, but you know, we shouldn't be pigeonholing people, but rather looking at what's their natural skill set and playing to that. And I think if more was done in businesses, they'd actually find they've got some great talent in there that they probably don't even realise.
Yeah, I agree. We've spoken, you know, increasingly, I think we're speaking about, you know, develop your humanity, bring out your interpersonal skills, your communication skills and so on. In an increasingly data-driven world, that's where your point of difference lies. So yeah, very interesting. Out of interest, Jodie, do the new people coming into this sector, so the whole data-driven numbers sector, do they need to be grads?
Do they need to be graduates? Look, no. I mean, the short answer is no. You don't have to be a graduate. I think it gives you a degree of, you know, discipline you know, when you've gone through kind of that sort of learning. But no, and it depends which part you're going into as well. I mean, which part of you know, if you're kind of going into more strategic roles, that can certainly help. But you know, other roles don't necessarily need that. We often see, particularly in the creative industries, that people are coming in from different backgrounds that don't perhaps have the kind of tertiary qualifications are coming in there and absolutely just shine. So yeah, I think it's a case of where you're going and what you're trying to do and which aspect of marketing, advertising, media you're going into. But I think there's so many opportunities, you know, even if you don't have the background qualifications.
That's exactly right. And I think there's a big emphasis on bringing graduates into the market. My sound sounds a bit funny there. It's settled down now. Big emphasis on bringing grads into our market, but everyone that I speak to about this subject, you know, very sort of face to face, they're saying that we're just looking for people who want to do this. They don't necessarily have to be grads, but of course then the reliance is on a good program once they do get into our industry, which segues very nicely into our next subject, our next question, Jodie, which is about your recent launch, ADMA IQ.
Yep.
I was involved very lightly in a project about a year ago, so it has been something that's been in the works for some time. So perhaps if you can give us the ins and outs of ADMA IQ, who's it for, what's it about, the levels, any feedback that you've had to date.
Yeah, so it did start around, it was over a year ago that we decided to really make a big investment into education. Part of the reason for that was just this constant feedback that we were getting from the industry saying, you know, we need education, but we don't need education just in the kind of traditional subject matters. That, you know, there is nowhere for us to go to find out about, you know, marketing automation or data and analytics or whatever it may be. And so where do we go? So it was just this constant noise that was coming up, and it kind of raised to board level at our end. And we said, right, okay, we need to now really look at this. And it kind of comes back to my very first point, you know, about being relevant to the industry. If the industry is telling us they need education, we've got to deliver education. So that's where it came about. We did a lot of work in the background, a lot of round tables, lots of interviewing with the market to see what was it that we actually need and what are the skills courses that are missing. So that took a reasonable amount of time to do that. And then we put together a framework, and our idea being that we wanted to have the full spectrum. So we wanted to have everything from those kind of core marketing skills sitting in the middle, right down to data and analytics and data science down at one end, and up through technology, content and creative right at the other end of the spectrum. So it was about having the full spectrum, and it doesn't matter if you're entry level or a CMO, that there's some level of education that you can get in there. So we're kind of building out that full program, and that's what we wanted to do. So it took us a year, and I'd say, look, we're not 100% there. We've launched, But there is, I think it's going to be one of those never-ending jobs that just when we think we've got all the courses, there's going to be more that we have to bring in to make sure that we're looking at the latest and greatest in marketing. So that was our kind of vision. And the other part of our vision was that we wanted to make sure it was available to people anytime, anywhere. So it doesn't matter if you're sitting in Alice Springs and you want to learn how to do better marketing or analytics or whatever it might be, you can do it. So all of our programs were available in class because people like learning in class, online, and then in-house. So just making it as available as humanly possible throughout Australia. And I guess what underpins it for me is I want to make sure that we give access to the marketing skills of the future. That's it in a nutshell. And the more that we can do that, the better. So that's why we've done it and what we've done.
Excellent. And it's a blend of online learning and in-house or classroom learning. And there's also a module if you wanted to do some more bespoke learning as well. Is that how it works? And as you said, all levels as well. And quite often the CMO will need kind of maybe the more fundamental information.
I think what we were seeing from a CMO perspective was that the whole idea around strategy and what a kind of a digital strategy, a transformation strategy, a data strategy, all of that sort of thing, it's not easy to do that sort of thing. And you might be the best CMO in the world, but you still need some help in terms of being able to frame that up and put it together and make sure it benchmarks against what others are doing in the industry. So that's kind of where we've gone with the C-level. And yes, in terms of the ways that we deliver, online is, it's a set online course that goes through all of the skills required. In class is a bit more interactive because you're sitting with other people and you can talk about what they're doing in their businesses and that sort of thing. So that works quite well. That's what you're looking for. And then the in-house training, we do a lot of bespoke. So we will go into companies such as a large bank who will say, yes, we want all our people to have digital skills, but we want them relevant to our financial institution. So can you tailor it for us? And we tailor it. So there's kind of all different options, and it depends how people want to learn.
And Jodie, who has produced the course material? Is it a subject matter experts, the content you've got? And as you said, the challenge is keeping moving with it as well. So who have you got on board courses?
Yeah, so we went out to the market. It's important that it's what we want is the best practitioners in the market being able to deliver our courses. So we went out to the market generally and said, okay, who are the experts out there, and come to us and tell us all about what you can do and what you can deliver. That was quite a rigorous process to go through that, because there's a lot of people that are very willing to put themselves forward. But we also did put another couple of steps in. So someone who is an industry expert may well be an industry expert in their subject matter, but they can't necessarily teach. So we have instructional designers internally who take a lot of the content and then actually frame that into something which someone can learn from. And then again, we're quite picky about who presents that. So again, you might be a great thought leader, but trying to translate that into delivery might not be your strength. So the people that we choose to actually deliver the courses are those ones that we feel have got a real flair for teaching. So there's quite a process that we've been through. It wasn't just a case of, well, let's pick that person over there and they'll deliver the course they want to. It was we play a big role in the content and the delivery.
And in terms of the access to the courses, if we can get a sense of how you've structured the price points, of course you're more bespoke. I'm imagining that's, there's tailored prices there. But there was some talk also about some kind of a business was subsidising some of the students to come in, which I think is fantastic, because it means we will end up with a more diverse industry. And we're likely to get some really interesting people involved that perhaps couldn't afford it otherwise.
Yeah, this is the part I'm so excited about, and putting together education programs has been brilliant and an exciting path. But we decided around 6 months ago that we wanted to do more. So this is not just about a skill shortage; it's also about a talent shortage. We haven't got enough people coming into our industry, and we need more. We need many more to be coming through. So we've put in place what we're calling a 1-for-1 program. So for every education course that's purchased, we give a course away for free to somebody who would love a career in marketing, who is trying to grow their business, who perhaps isn't as advantaged as somebody else to be able to pay for a course. So that program is going to kick off in about 2 weeks' time. And we've got some founding partners with that, which I can't quite announce yet, but watch this space because that will come out in the big launch. And what those founding partners have done is they've invested a substantial amount of money, both to upskill their teams, but then that means that we've got a big pool of money that we're going to be able to go out with to say to the market, right, here's free training and let's get, many, many more people into our marketing industry. And, I'm so excited about that because I think marketing, advertising, media is a fantastic career. And if we can kind of help some people get into a career, that would be a great thing for us to do.
I agree. I think, I think quite often, we are after those more number-driven people and grads coming out, but that's a very fished pond, for want of a better term. There's many industries kind of, after those skill sets, and quite often the media advertising industry gets a little overlooked, perhaps for different finance or something similar. So the thought of perhaps looking in a different pond, a pond that perhaps hadn't considered our industry before, I think it's really exciting. Where are you thinking that you'll find these people to come into the industry?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it will be, I think it'll come from all different areas. And working with our partners, our foundation partners, we are kind of they're very focused and we're very focused on delivering to kind of specific sectors. One will be small business, absolutely. Some will be people returning back to work, whether they've been off for maternity or other reasons, but actually getting people who are returning back into work and starting them on a path of marketing will be another. Startup community is another place where that a lot of help is needed because people have got a great idea but don't know how to market themselves. So look, I think there'll be many different places that we'll find people will want to have more of a marketing role. And actually there was a statistic, and I think it's actually an AMI statistic that says 50% of adults have some sort of marketing role in their job. I might not even know it, but they do. And if we can kind of tap into that and actually increase the awareness of that and their ability in marketing, then I think that's going to take us a big step forward.
I agree. I mean, you're right. I think that's a really good point. Perhaps you don't even realise you're a marketer. I know, most of us in advertising don't realise that we're actually selling. We're all selling something. Which is a different kind of marketing, or marketing selling the same thing. Thank you. And I will have some information about ADMA IQ on MediaScope, particularly as I'm highlighting this replay. But I'm really excited by it. I think it looks like a really great initiative and looking forward to some level of involvement in some way. We will continue that conversation, but also really looking forward to the one-for-one program, because I think that's wonderful. I love seeing, new people that perhaps don't normally have that opportunity to come into our industry. Let's move on. We've been going for about 45 minutes, so I just really want to finish up with a bit of a view of your week. What's been on your radar? What have you attended? Anything that's particularly caught your eye? And what's going on with you next week?
I think I'm just in such a kind of a privileged position. I don't think there is a more diverse job than running 3 industry associations, and you end up doing things that you go, goodness me, how did I end up here? So the week that's been has been a big focus on education and how we're going to work with companies so that they can themselves assess their skills gap. That's been a big kind of part of our week. We had a creative roundtable, so we're looking at what the creative communities need from ADMA, and in particular how we take people who are have been in creative roles and are looking for that kind of next step up, how we create a pathway for them, because that's one area that's not very there's not much of a structure around it at the moment, and could certainly do with some help there. So there's been that. We've been having some interesting conversations around the future of data and regulation, and I think that was yesterday when the Apple
Yes.
Open letter to their customers came out. That was a moment to kind of sit up and take notice, because it really, really highlights the problems we're going to have moving forward, in terms of, you know, companies collecting data, individuals wanting to have privacy, and government wanting to use data for whether it be counter-terrorism or other reasons. But it really does kind of go to the sharp end of where we're going with data. So it was that, a lot of member meetings, a board meeting, and that was the week that was.
It does sound like a busy week, and I agree, the whole privacy issue, for want of a better term, it's been something that we've been talking about for a little while. I'm not 100% sure consumers have quite got onto that yet, but perhaps with governments talking it up a little bit more, and things like it happened yesterday with Apple, I do think makes people wonder, what happens with the information that they're sharing and so on. So yes, I agree. I think that's going to be interesting to watch. My week, keeping an eye on a few things. STW results today, not overly good, but interesting to see what happens with their merger or takeover, more likely, with WPP. A couple of other results this week. Fairfax came out with down, but they're really talking up Domain. I think Nine also some results this week, and Bauer also making some changes with the new appointment of a sales director. So a few things going on in the market. As always, it's a market that never stays still. Next week, I'm looking forward to attending the Programmatic Summit on Wednesday. That's always a really interesting, good day. Nice to catch up with the industry. I'm actually have two guests joining me for drinks that evening from the University of Queensland, a professor and a doctor of marketing. They're very interested in the whole programmatic space, so I'm looking forward to hosting them for a few hours. Apart from that, turning up every day, Jodie, that's me. And it sounds like it's you as well. So I really want to thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. It's been a really informative, interesting chat. It's been great to get some more insights into ADMA's plans, particularly around your new training program, ADMA IQ. And again, I'll have that up on the MediaScope site. So Jodie, thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.